everyone, and welcome to the third edition of Marvel Multiverse Mondays on LRM Online. I'm your host, Nick, and my co-host, as always, is Kyle. How you doing, Kyle?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Trying to get over this god-awful cold.
There aren't any germs in television land. No one's getting sick on that show. Coots is with us again. I think he'll be with us a lot. How are you doing, man?
I am good. I'm excited for Ep 2. I'm excited to get into it a little bit. I feel
episode 3.
That's right.
I was assuming.
That's right. That's right. It's episode 2
WandaVision.
of this. Episode 3 of one. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks, guys.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Got it.
Of course, episode 3, which I loved even in the advertising, and then they started it that way. It's just called Now in Color or In Color. I forgot. The other two have official titles too, but they didn't last week, but that doesn't matter anymore. We're past those two.
Yeah.
So let's start with really brief, quick, spoiler-free thoughts. You like it? Didn't like it? What would you guys think? We'll start with Kyle.
I think that this episode has the best moments so far, but the first 15 minutes are almost boring, and then I think that this really would have been better to release all three of these episodes together at once.
All three.
They should have done that, because the first two episodes they have their issues and they drag on, and they build a little bit of mystery, and it gets you to episode 3. But if I had seen episode 3 last week, like some of the screeners did, I think I would probably have rated it higher.
I understand.
Like watching all three of those together.
You probably would have ranked all of them higher, right? Or just the show in general. I can definitely see why you're saying that.
Yeah,
we
but
can get to
as
that.
a standalone, it's got some issues. I give it a B+ overall, because the last 10 minutes are amazing. So
yeah. How about you, Coots?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I'd like the B+ range. I thought this was a fun episode. Like right from the get-go, starting in color for me really sort of set it off like that. That made me a little bit more invested right off the bat, which is kind of like superficial, I suppose you would say. But I was pretty into it right off the bat. And some of the humor, I think, for me, played a little bit better in this episode. And then, yeah, as Kyle said, like the last half of the episode was pretty electric, actually. I was really into it. I like the idea of maybe releasing these as if they would have done these in the first week, all three of them. I think that would be more of a hook for everybody, because, before we get into the actual spoilers of the episode, much more going on, a better glimpse into the universe that we're working with. Mm-hmm. And as you said earlier, Nick, really blew some of our speculation and theories out of the water in this episode.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree that it's my least favorite of the three. I would probably, if I gave the first two A's, I'd probably give this one a B+. I mean, an A-. And I agree why. Love the opening credits. Like, it's my favorite of all of them. Da 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 da. WandaVision, like in color, and then just all of it with like 1 + 1 is more than 2 or some shit.
Right.
But I felt like it was the least funny as a sitcom on its own, where I laughed at a lot of the 50s and 60s style jokes. I didn't laugh at many of the like sitcom jokes in this one. So yeah, this one really got interesting when it got into more of the breaking of the rules within the show that we've seen happen every episode. There's more interesting stuff. Waiting to get to it, it's just not as funny as the other episodes.
Yeah, I would tack this on with you two, who is as this person that started that idea of these three should have been released together. I think Disney should take a step back, at least more Marvel, because of the way the MCU is. And Feige, who has the weight, should go to the Bobs, Iger, and what's the other one's name?
I don't even know. I've never heard the other guy's name.
New Bob.
Yeah, New Bob.
Bob too.
It was so funny. They basically, like, the position that the second Bob came from, they relabeled it, restructured it, basically, so Iger could stay and make a shit ton of fucking money, but not have all the it's weird. Anyways, I think Feige should go and look at this, and go to the Bobs and say, each of our shows is different, and there's going to be times we need to release 2 episodes on week three and 3 episodes on week 1, and other times where 1 episode a week is going to be fine. I think Marvel should look at their shows that are already finished. The 3 we know are coming basically out soon. Done, Loki, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Miss Marvel. And I would reevaluate the current planned release structure and look at chunk release structure instead.
I think I agree with you. No, go ahead.
So I wrote this note down, and this is really on track with what Kyle's saying right now. And it's this idea that I think that if you do the week-to-week situation, you open yourself up for so much toxic speculation. And I think we've seen this in a lot of other shows that you couldn't binge watch when you had to wait week to week. People get on Reddit, people get on Twitter, elsewhere, and they're posting what they think is going to happen. And then when it doesn't go that direction, people get angry.
I wonder what show you're talking about. It's almost like you're talking about Game of Thrones. That's what it sounds like to me. Or Westworld. Or
yeah, exactly. And it's fans that get an idea into their head, and the filmmakers or the producers have no obligation to stick with your theory. They really do not. There's a game plan before they even shot one scene. And so I think that Disney is opening themselves up to some of that could ultimately turn into failure from a fan perspective, at least.
So I think it also leads to water cooler talk.
Sure.
Or the internet equivalent of it. I never watched Lost, but I read a paper about how it really created the online community with TV shows, as far as like everyone runs online and is like, what do you think is going to happen next? Like,
keeping it at the top of the zeitgeist where it's on everybody's mind. And oh my God, did you see that episode last night? Totally agree with you. But it's almost like they should pour a foundation first with chunks of episodes before you build it piecemeal sort of thing.
I agree. They should start with the first 3, but then I would hope they'd be able to go week to week, just because of the complaints we've seen where people are like, a black and white show, so they might not even make it past the first week. On the other hand, I don't think that would be necessary if the original plan had gone through and we'd seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier first, and there had been we wouldn't have been jumping into Marvel without COVID, like a year and a half, no Marvel, and suddenly it's black and white Marvel. I think it would have been a different story in that
for
case.
some of the casual viewers.
Because we saw them do Falcon, that was good. This is gonna be weird, but we have trust.
I said I hope that they look at that they're willing to look at each show individually, and instead of being rigid, which they already proved they're not rigid by doing what they did with Mando season 1. They released 2 episodes. We know why they were timing things for episode 9 and stuff for the Force healing.
It came out early that
anyways, the next year it was week to week, and it worked perfectly fine. This is just an example of one of those shows and one of those times where a different release structure potentially would have worked better. And I hope they can consider that. But I do agree that week to week is good for business.
Yeah, and then but one thing the creator has said, the showrunner, is that it's supposed to feel like a comic book run, like where you're getting like an issue a month and it's like one overarching story, which I think makes even more sense for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because 6 issues of a comic is basically a run, and we're getting 6 episodes weekly. It mimics the comic format more than the movies, where it's like a movie is a storyline, one sitting in 2.5 hours. We just watched Age of Ultron yesterday after the Vision episode, which I'll talk about a little bit later, how this really ties into Ultron in a weird way I saw in one Easter egg video. But it's interesting because you cover the entire Winter Soldier storyline, not exactly the same as the comic, but close, in one movie. Whereas like the TV show, it's like, they're not waiting monthly, where we're doing a 6-issue arc of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a 9-issue arc of WandaVision or whatever, and people can wait in between.
Right.
But are you guys ready for the quick synopsis?
Let's hit it.
And
Let's hear what you got.
So we'll see. Hold on. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a drink of energy, pure energy.
Is it giving you wings?
Oh, now I'm gonna just float. Yeah, I'll go fly like Vision or Wanda with them wings.
Nice.
Archangel, I guess. All right. So technically we pick up time-wise, we learned 12 hours after the last episode. So we've learned that even this is this is gonna be spoilers, folks. Now I'm gonna give the whole plot. So spoilers, and then we'll give predictions, I think, more than Easter eggs at the end. So yeah, we learn in this one the doctor is there. Well, the doctor's it opens with the doctor, right? Yeah, the first scene, because he's like, "Yep, you're definitely pregnant."
Yep, first shot is the doctor for sure.
Yeah, and and then he thinks it's been like what 4 months the first time or something, and like there's I laughed at this joke where he's like 4 months, right? And he looks at them, and Vision's like shaking his head no, and Wanda's shaking her head yes, because they're trying to. Vision's like more afraid than hiding it, and she's hiding it because obviously they reference that it happened. Like he says, "Well, what size would it be 12 hours?" And the doctor can't believe that. So we know, even though we're jumping tens of years, like a decade in time as far as style, this is all happening basically real time. Each episode we've seen must be a different day. So we're like 3 days in to the world of WandaVision, and things are obviously cracking more and more. One point, Vision goes outside. Well, before Vision goes outside to check on the neighbors, Wanda starts having her like first early contractions or something, and they do the breathing technique, which is kind of a funny joke, like
yeah,
which I think becomes funnier later when Vision's doing it while she's giving birth, and he's like floating up in the air, and she's like, "Calm down," and he does it's like float back to the ground. So when she has her first early contractions, shit goes crazy, like the power like machines go, they're like, "We have to abandon the kitchen," and like it's just all the machines are going crazy and the dishwasher's overflowing, and then they're out there, and then there's this big old flash of light. It's so bright, and this ties in later, I think. And then I guess it did make me laugh a lot, because then once it stopped, Wanda's like, "It stopped," and like they're kind of in their Avengers poses when they're back to back.
That's right. Yeah, it's a little bit of a, I guess it's Charlie's Angels in a way.
Yeah,
perhaps a reference there.
I can see that.
Yeah, definitely. Because even the Vision kind of has his hands up. He's not like ready to use his powers. But Wanda almost looks like the way she does her crazy hand shit outside of this show, like Age of Ultron, etc., destroying Thanos, those sort of things. But so from there, then they're working. Oh yeah, he checks outside, see how the other neighbors are going, if they lost their power or not. We do see the guy who looks like Luigi living with Dottie. So whoever said that last week was right. I did not think.
Confirmed.
I said that.
Yeah, I did not think they were together, but they're definitely husband and wife, which as we get into it later, actually makes me less suspicious of Dottie and more suspicious of Ralph, who we still don't get to meet. At first I thought that was just a trope. That's a sitcom trope all the time, where you never see the neighbor's husband or.
Yeah, I never think we're going to see Ralph.
No, I didn't think we would either. But I also didn't think he mattered to the plot, but I'm beginning to think so. So he goes outside to check on the neighbors. His neighbor Herb is doing his bushes. He's cutting them, and then he starts trim it up, and then he just starts sawing through the stone like wall between them. And it's just like, I think you're done with the hedge there. I think you're a little bit below the hedge. He's like, so I am. And he keeps doing that like mindless, creepy, just like going down the wall with the, I'm sure
we're gonna come back around and get to speculate on all these individual things, correct?
Yeah. I'm just going through the plot.
All right.
I'm speculating too much, in fact. I was going through the plot. But so then Wanda, I don't remember. This all might not be in order, but it doesn't matter. I think this is when they have the speech where Vision comes in and she's like, "Do you think they're noticing us?" And like Vision goes dead serious, and he's like, "Wanda, something isn't right here." Like,
yes, Vision understands that something is wrong, and he sort of breaks that. I guess you might call it fourth wall, where it injects a dose of reality in for Wanda.
Yeah.
And that's when this episode started hitting the fast track and got weird.
Instead of the rewind, we just get kind of an instant move back with a frame in the middle. I actually haven't stopped to see what the frame is. It feels like there's like a Tyler Durden type frame, because the black
Right.
It goes black twice, and then he's back where he was. And then he gets the sitcom answer where he's like, "Oh, honey, things are just changing." And
I'd been drinking whiskey, and I was like, "Did I see what I just think I saw?" And I had to rewind it and actually double check that they had taken a frame out or whatever, that the show had reset rather than my internet skipped a minute or something.
I was afraid
It's more-
keep that.
It's more of a so I watched a lot of stuff to see if there's something in there that we're missing, and as far as the internet can tell, no, it's
just an extra
allegedly more of last time when she rewound it, we saw it from her point of view. She said no and rewound it.
So this is Vision
This
feeling
time,
it.
Right. This time it's more of an audience/world point of view. When she makes a change, we all just kind of have like that Matrix deja vu moment. That's what some on the internet are pointing to it as, and I kind of agree, because I went through, I couldn't see any hidden images. It's just a weird rewind that we don't see it the same way we did last time. So I think it's just I agree with them. I think it's a different point of view on the rewind.
I like that too. That does make more sense. And I did skip a scene, but really the order doesn't matter this early. Before all the freaky stuff starts happening with contractions and stuff is when they, I think, do the nursery for Timmy, Billy or Tommy. And they argue about the name. It's all American name, but Billy Shakespeare, all the world's a stage, which is an interesting quote to pick.
I absolutely wrote that down because I think that has some significance that we can circle back around to. But yeah, this is the scene where she turns the mobile thing into butterflies, and she's doing some magic, and we're having fun. Stork painted on the wall, which comes into play later. Lots of fun.
Of course, she's not physically doing any of it. She's
right.
And then Vision, this is earlier, because Vision, nothing, the first thing that happens that she didn't control, like she did, we assume, but didn't actually control, was the butterflies. Like, that's just because she's like, oh, did I do that? Normally she's very aware of what she's doing. At that point, we'll get to it later. So, and then the other stuff that's happening after that, Vision calculates she's due in 3 days. And then I believe we go from that to her having straight convulsions. Right?
Yeah.
Her water breaks. Her
water breaks, and he runs off to go get the doctor.
And when the water breaks, it rains inside her home, which when that happened, my friend was like, ew.
That's kind of what I thought too. I was like, that's not rain, is it?
She's just manifesting,
Exactly.
And then the neighbor shows up, and it's good old Geraldine, or maybe Foxy. At one point, she's like, no, it's Foxy. And then it sounds like the same sentence where she's like, can I borrow it though? But it might be her forgetting who she was. Because as we go forward throughout the scene, she's like, I just want to borrow a bucket. And then it becomes one of those comedy things. It's like, why does she need a bucket? We think later, but it's one of those reasons, like, just scenes where
she
like,
says
oh no,
that
I got
her house filled with water and she's got to bail herself out.
Yeah, but we learn later she has no home.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
So she has no house to bail out.
Because then she changes.
And then she wants the art supplies.
What she's wanting. Yep.
But she's there. She's like, being that like neighbor and like talking about her day job and telling, like a funny anecdote about her day. And of course, there's the joke of Wanda hiding her baby bump, and the point where like she's holding fruit. She's like, what is that? Fruit.
Yeah, boy, there's a lot of fruit references.
Yes, there is.
Right off the bat, they're talking to the doctor about fruit. There's a couple of fruit
women
jokes,
can understand with these sizes of
that was funny.
This is fruitless, and I can't wait to be a papaya or whatever
a papaya.
A papaya.
Fruit, as we all know, has a specific history in the Abrahamic religions. That's for those of you that don't know, that's Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, and all of its subsects. Fruit is important. All three of those Abrahamic religions share a basic same Old Testament, in which we all know a fruit was taken from the tree of knowledge at the behest of that old serpent, later referred to as the devil, which in Marvel is Mephisto, has, as I always said it because I never heard it in real life.
I'd never heard it said aloud until
Mephisto, and I'm going to continue in that because that's just how I am. Anyways, I think it's interesting also that the fruit that Eve allegedly took is often portrayed as an apple, which is also become a symbol for knowledge because of that story, but also with apples for teachers, apple a day, Dr. Way, all that shit.
Oh, the company apple.
It's obviously this fruit thing is important because also children are the fruit of their parents screwing and mommy's going into labor.
Yeah,
so another religious thing, be fruitful and multiply. So
it's good. I didn't even think of that. Because that, and then of course she picks the apple, which is the, also with that fruit and stuff in the Bible, that's Monica how
the apple.
They gain the knowledge that they're not supposed to have, that God doesn't want them to have, and they're expelled from the garden. So that's all happening. Vision's running to catch the Doctor, who's going to Bermuda, like the Bermuda Triangle. And then but his car is broken, so Vision runs.
I will say,
yeah,
he says 8 weeks they've been planning this trip, and then his car just broke.
Yes.
So that's an interesting.
Because that would maybe put it before. Yeah, we'll see how time really works here, but because everyone's obviously shocked that she's pregnant when they see her. Because then the whole group's there before the Doc gets back. She tells her story, Geraldine. And she's talking about work, and her promotion and stuff. And then she suddenly wants art supplies, and she sees the crib. And then Wanda, and there's a stork walking around during the story. The one that was on the wall also came to life, which is something she doesn't know that she did, if she did it.
And she can't magic it away.
Yeah, and she tries to get rid of it with a plume of red smoke, which is her thing, and also usually associated with the devil, a red plume of red smoke. So, she can't get rid of it, but then Geraldine goes to the art supply. She sees the crib, and then she has to help her deliver the first child. Vision and Doc get there. Geraldine and the Doctor go into the kitchen, and then she's like, "Don't you want to meet your son?" And they end up calling the first one Tommy, like with your own face, and Vision puts on his own face. And then there's the she screams and he screams. It's not one of those jokes where it's like, "Oh, Nelly," which they might even say. And he's like, "What is it this time?"
But there's an additional sound with her scream that is not him upon additional viewing. I thought at first it was him screaming, but it's not. It's her. That weird noise comes out of her.
So then they deliver the second baby. Everything seems pretty cool. He walks the Doctor out, and then he sees Agnes.
Herb and Agnes.
Same spot. He's still going on that fucking like going all over that fence between their houses. But this is when it starts to get really weird. As far as tying to the outside world and getting even scary, is they're gabbing and he walks over because at first they act like they don't even want to tell him, and then they're like, "Oh, is Geraldine still inside with Wanda?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" It's like, she has no home, she's not from here, sort of conversation.
I thought that the editing and directing right in this sequence is excellent. I thought the intercutting between the tension that's being built outside in the yard, where we're hinting at there's something wrong with Geraldine, and we cut back inside to Geraldine, and I'm sure I'm spoiling it for you a little bit, but she mentions her brother. She mentions Pietro, and that Pietro died at the hands of Ultron. And meanwhile, outside, Vision is getting kind of the skinny from Agnes, who is mentioning that Geraldine is inside and is homeless. And so it seems to me, my reading was that they're concerned with Geraldine's health. And is she okay? As if Wanda is the dangerous prisoner who's running the show. We'll come to that in a sec. So Wanda's running the show, and Geraldine is in on the inside, and they're all wondering. They can't kick in the door and ask her if she's okay, but they're asking Vision, is she in there? Is she doing pretty good, or what's going on? Meanwhile, Geraldine is kind of backed herself into a corner inside the house.
Yes, by bringing up because Wanda's like, oh, I was a twin, and she sings the Sokovian love song, which is nice to actually hear her even do her accent or anything from Sokovia to remind you. And then that's when Geraldine's like, oh, she says Pietro, Wanda, and then Geraldine's like, he was killed by Ultron, right? And you're like, boom, someone referencing the actual Marvel universe and an event that happened 10 years ago, I guess, if you count the snap as crossing 5 more years. So it's interesting. And then Wanda starts freaking out. She's like, what did you say? Kind of, she's one running the world. So it's kind of the opposite of Mr. Hart, where he's like, what's going on? Why don't you have kids? Blah, blah, blah. Where are you from? It's kind of Wanda's doing the opposite, where she's like, who are you? And then she notices the sword necklace. And I guess the only place she would have seen sword before is probably the helicopter and the beekeeper. It's not I don't think she knows about the organization sword. If this does happen right after Endgame, as we think.
Well, let me say something. I think Kyle's really on this Mephisto kick, and I'm not confident that I believe that at all. But boy, when they cut to that necklace, the sword necklace, it sure as hell looked like an upside down cross to me. and I don't know that Disney would be cool with that, to throw that kind of imagery into the show. But for a brief moment, I was like, perhaps the literal devil.
Well,
then,
go ahead, Nick.
Oh, then the ultimate moment. Well, then Vision is still outside. They're talking about Herb's about to tell him something, and Agnes is almost ready to let him tell it, but then just kind of no, shut up. And it's what is it, Herb? And he's like, oh, nothing, Vision. And then he just unplugs his thing that doesn't look like it was ever plugged in, his trimmer, and just walks off. And then we get to the really cool part where Vision, and then he comes inside because we don't know what happened to Geraldine. And he's like, oh, where's Geraldine? And it's like, oh, she left.
She had to go home.
Yeah, she had to go home. And he's like, okay. But then we see what really happened to her as the show goes widescreen in the coolest way, not all the way widescreen. And she's thrown out of the bubble we've seen in the trailers. And then it goes full widescreen with the bars coming down, at least on my TV.
Yeah.
And she's in the real world. We don't see really the sword signal, but we figure it. We know it's sword. They rush out, guns on her, because they don't know what to expect.
Well, that's interesting because, I don't know if we're jumping into it already, but I've definitely seen some speculation that, we assume that she's an agent of sword because she's got her necklace on and what have you, but they come at her with guns drawn, presume they might be members of some other agency.
Maybe. Well, we do kind of know their sword, though, and she is, because if it's the same location as the guy watching the video. But that's why I think it's sword, is we see the helicopters flying around and floodlights on the bubble.
I've seen speculation that it's AIM, in fact. Well, and
I've heard something.
The hexagonal
there are lots of hexagonals, and
all
of them.
But how many sides are in a hexagon?
6.
Okay. What is another name for a curse?
A hex.
What is
666?
what is Wanda's chaos magic also known as?
I don't know.
Hex magic.
Hex magic.
There's no aim in WandaVision, guys.
I know someone did point out.
The beekeeper's a sword agent.
Yeah, he definitely
not
is.
AIM. There's it was leaked by Top's card. Monica Rambeau, Geraldine, was indeed a sword agent. She's actually well, Nick, I'll let you finish up and then
that's the whole episode.
Okay.
So that's how it ends. It ends really creepy, very Marvel. We see that there's a town sign, I guess is the other detail outside the bubble, which does confirm that she did corrupt an existing town. It's people. It's not something she invented because the sign is outside of the bubble and it even says they have a military base
inside the bubble hole and
the bubble, of course, is not your typical bubble from a movie. It's very it matches the TV static, color static thing that's been going on.
When you get real close to your old CRT monitor.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, who knows how much we got right and how much we got wrong in terms of speculation last week, but the bubble concept absolutely came up, like an actual literal bubble. I know we've thrown out references to Truman Show and stuff like that. One reference I want to throw out is the Stephen King Under the Dome.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a little bit of that going on here, right?
And the Simpsons movie. I always think of the Simpsons movie. No, it's not good when I think of a dome, especially since the Simpsons did it before the Stephen King book, which is hilarious.
Didn't the Simpsons do a lot of things before they?
Yeah, Simpsons did it.
Did the Simpsons predict WandaVision? You guys speculate in the comments
or on our Discord channel.
There you go.
So, who wants to start with some of their predictions / Easter eggs that prove them? I'll go first. The hexagon thing is very interesting. We've seen it in every episode. And here it's all over the opening credits. But again, I agree with, at first I did think it was kind of AIM. One of the people I watched thought was AIM, but they also referenced this costume, and we have seen the sword logo on the costume. So I like Kyle's hexagon, hexes, and it's also 6 sides, which I mean, for other little tiny things, 6 infinity stones, the devil's number is 666. Which someone pointed out. The first toaster says 999 on it, in the other commercial in the first episode. There is a commercial in this episode. Mm-hmm. Same man and woman, because the man is at the end of it. Even if you don't look, you have to look for him. Where it's an actual parody of a very specific commercial where it's like, "Is life too crazy? Escape with Hydra Soak," which is a soap.
Yeah, it's those old collagen bath soak things. Yeah, and
the lady's the same; she's in color, and the guy's the same. He's just the one getting her with the palm for like the frond. And I have a theory about that.
Unleash
I think it's
the goddess within.
What?
Unleash the goddess within.
Yeah, and that's the quote, which is continuing to play into, if they're making her into a goddess that they can control or whatever.
Well,
they already have the babies, and they keep all of them are about time still. Even too, this is like escape for a time. It doesn't say that. Every commercial is about time in some way.
Right, and the goddess, some, including myself, think they're referring to, and what's on Agatha's brooch, because remember, something.
I saw a cool thing about her brooch.
Something Coots brought up earlier, guys, and I'm sorry, I'm sick. Everyone that can hear me coughing in the background, I try to mute it every time I do, but and no, it's not a tumor or COVID. It's not a tumor. Anyways, what was I gonna say here?
You were talking about something about something Coots said
something that I brought up.
Coots brought up what?
You were also talking about the brooch, and then you said Coots.
Okay, yeah. So he brought up the upside down cross on the what you call it.
Oh, the sword,
which
necklace.
Is possible. However, everyone's been focused on Agatha's brooch. People see that top thing as being a scythe, and then the Grim Reaper's helmet, and the episode 2 animated opening. Mm-hmm. The Grim Reaper's more of a he's more of a
grocery store.
It's at the grocery. No, it's in the animation of the house.
It's in the floorboards. I know it's just below something, and it's definitely the Grim Reaper shaped, like the Marvel Grim Reaper. Coots,
but the Marvel Grim Reaper
specific hat.
Yeah, the Marvel Grim Reaper is not like Death in our real world. He's almost more of a technological super villain, and he does have powers though, but he's not the same Grim Reaper that we think of. No. Death is that Grim Reaper in the Marvel comics.
And they've chosen not to use her where they should have, which would have been Infinity War and Endgame.
But there are definitely three figures on Agatha, Agnes's brooch, and people are bringing up the connection to the word goddess. With witchcraft, which the goddess of witchcraft would be most likely Hecate. And she had 3, I don't remember if they were daughters or 3 sisters she adopted or used or something, but there were these 3 witches that were a part of her group, a part of what she was doing as Hecate. And here's the thing. Coots had mentioned before, Marvel changes stuff and it's fine. We've talked about how Infinity War and Endgame, no Adam Warlock, no Infinity Watch, no Nebula taking the gauntlet and becoming the big bad, and Thanos becoming a good guy. None of that. They did their own version of the Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet story, which is why here we're seeing so many different things be taken from different stories, like I had said last week or the week before with there's House of M, there's Secret Empire, there's the original story of the children.
It's definitely Tom King's vision. He's even thanked at the end.
And Tom King's vision. Yep. And
which is all creepy as this show is. Like when Wanda freaking out, I thought of the wife freaking out in Vision.
And I can see where they can change some things. It's not going to be the Grim Reaper because, like I said, he doesn't fit unless they completely change.
I think they're combining characters, maybe, which is very
maybe
possible.
An amalgam. But
a lot of other people think it might be Nightmare and not Mephisto.
There are some people that think it could be Nightmare. Nightmare was originally Scott Derrickson's bad guy for Multiverse of Madness. We have no idea what happened.
If that's why Derrickson decided to bail because of creative differences, because that was his vision, and now it's not because it's Sam Raimi. So,
well, you might keep at least the overall. That's interesting. That might mean he is in the final version because you keep part of the script if you want. Sam Raimi is a guy who does his own thing, but he actually very rarely. The movie he wrote himself in the Spider-Man trilogy is Spider-Man 3. So he's not exactly the best of the Spider-Man writers. He's not the worst. He's not as bad as in Amazing Spider-Man movies. But yeah, it would be interesting to see that because what was I gonna say? Because that could still continue, or even maybe that's so set in stone that when they were doing these first, that it has to continue that way.
Maybe Kevin's like, no, we're using the Nightmare for something else. I don't know if I thought
the creative differences was that he wanted to make it even more horror driven, even though it was going to be PG-13. And Disney was like, no, we won't let you go that far. Because of course he's also famous for Insidious. No, not Insidious. Yeah, Insidious,
yes,
right? No,
yes. He and
Sinister. Yeah, who wrote the first Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and Austin native, by the way. Whose stuff I've been reading for many years on the internet. But yeah, I mean, all that stuff that we're talking about honestly speaks to the fact that I just have a really hard time imagining that they're going to let us roll with a extremely devil-like Mephisto. I'm not sure that Disney lets that ride. And I know we're getting references, but that might be for the people who understand that reference.
Ralph looks better in the dark.
Exactly.
I think Ralph is Mephisto now.
There you go. And then we get something like a Nightmare or something like that.
Possibly.
I do love the idea that Doctor Strange shows up in this series. And that leads to a direct transition to the Multiverse of Madness, where we might be able to presume Nightmare is a big part of that.
I want to go back to the brooch in a moment, if you're done with the brooch, Kyle. But I do think we'll be getting a few Avengers once they get out of the bubble later, that maybe they even have to fight. Because I almost think Wanda's going to become one of the main villains in this and Doctor Strange. Like by the end of this, I think she'll be a villain because she's so driven because she's basically crazy in House of M too by that point, because she's been cracked and broken and she's lost so much and she's being influenced. So she might be the villain by the end of this. But there was an article this week where the showrunner was denied as many Avengers as she wanted. Like they were like, no, you can't have that one. You can't have that one. And that's probably because of the different storylines. Because like I said, there's multiple storylines that are going to start in the MCU that won't connect as much until like some Avengers type event. But going back to the brooch, one of the videos I watched, he saw the 3 women on it. 3 women, 3 sisters, 3 witches. Not sure. But in Norse mythology and a cut scene from Age of Ultron, they're called the Norns in Norse mythology. Yep. They're the overseers of the 9 realms. And they appear in Age of Ultron. They're not mentioned by name in the cut we get. The cut Thor goes off on his mission. It's the Norns that show him the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yep.
And his destruction at home. And then the deleted version of the scene, they talk through him. Like he starts saying crazy stuff, and it's the three witches speaking through him. And of course, this episode ties into Age of Ultron a lot more. Like I ended up watching Age of Ultron with my friends after this episode because my best friend's wife doesn't remember it. And Disney Plus is like, they were very smart. They recommend Age of Ultron after the credits.
They are pushing it hard.
Yeah.
And I had totally blacked out. Age of Ultron was one of my least favorite Marvel films. And I just got lucky that my fiance and I are at that point in our rewatch. I swear I hadn't seen it since the year it came out.
Yeah.
So same with my friend, and he's like, I liked it a lot better this time than I remember.
Yeah.
But also before I finish, so Thor is given what he calls a vision by the witches, the Norns. The Norns call it a vision, and then he calls vision. Like he creates a name for vision, so it could be coming all the way down from the witches. Yeah.
Yeah, he says, I seen a vision of like death and destruction, a whirlpool of death and destruction. And at the center is that the Mind Stone.
And at least in the original cut, the vision is given to him by these three witches, who may or may not tie into Agatha, who we assume is a witch.
A lot of people thought that when Thor says, I see at the middle of this whirlpool the Mind Stone, that he was referring to, he could see that stone with other stones, right? And we assume that the whirlpool was the Infinity Gauntlet. But what if it's not? What if this vision was actually alerting him to Wanda? Maybe.
Yeah.
I
definitely
still
creating vision. Like he's like, if the stone is safe with this being, like
yeah. There's some other things. For example, Squadron Supreme is an alternate take on DC characters by Marvel. There's Hyperion, who is Superman.
Batman.
There's
Superman, you're right.
Nighthawk, who's Batman. There's Arcana, who is like there's Zatanna, whatever. They're magical person. They're Constantine type. And Arcana is actually married to a guy named Phil, who shares the same last name as the Phil that's married to Dottie. Which I said
is just Jones, by the way, right?
Yeah,
Phil
I
Jones?
believe so.
I love that guy, even in the opening credits when he's like,
which I had
call
said,
him Luigi.
I had said last week, at first I thought that Dottie would be the Mephisto, but when she seemed to kind of be taken out of things, I started doubting that. And the idea of her being Arcana, the idea of Agatha being here, I'm still sticking with Mephisto's the ultimate string puller.
Yeah.
We already know that Disney's put an image of the devil in a Disney Plus show. It's clear in Loki trailer.
Yeah, the stained glass window with
the stained glass church window. It's the devil. It's the red horned tailed cloven footed devil. And I'm sticking with that. I don't think it's Dottie. I didn't think it was Dottie after seeing episode.
I was definitely wrong about that. I was going to come on and say that too. It's not Dottie.
But I said that last. I know,
and I disagreed with you.
Anymore.
But now I agree with you.
Yeah. I think Ralph is Agatha referring to Mephisto, but there is no actual Ralph. She's just playing into the show's stereotypes with it. They're going to combine characters and stories here, but I don't see any other I really don't see doing the kids, Wiccan and Speed, Tommy and Billy. I don't see the point of doing them and introducing these additional magic users, potential magic users that are outside of normal sorcery, like we see with Doc Strange.
Mutants, one could call them. Definitely at this point, I think.
Well, we've seen mutants that get access to Wanda herself in the comics is a mutant that learns that not only was she mutated with these abilities, but she can also enhance that with magic. And that was the whole point of getting her to snap and break, was to unlock her full potential. So while it's not going to be 100% page for page, which I don't want, I can't think of another character, not Nightmare, not Pandemonium, not Agatha, not Strange, not Dormammu, not... I can't think of a single supernatural user who I could fit logically in anything I see in the future. You know what I'm saying? As far as bringing these kids and bringing this story to life. So I still think it's going to be Mephisto. In the end. I still think Wanda will be the main bad guy, whether by choice or by accident, by snapping mentally. She'll be the bad guy for Doctor Strange 2.
Didn't she say she might appear in Spider-Man, or I never actually read the article. I read the title, or did she say she wouldn't be in it?
I don't know. Maybe. I think in Spider-Man we might see a lot of stock footage being used, and kind of like you seen commercials for what's that new Ratchet and Clank game? The one with all the multi-dimensions on the PS5 coming out.
I know what you're talking about, but I couldn't.
I think Spider-Man 3 might have scenes like that, where literally you're almost like Strange's trip through the multiverse in Doctor Strange 1, but instead it's going to be shattered all over, and you might, over on the left side of the screen, be looking at Tobey Maguire's world and seeing him get bit for the first time. And then
or fighting
over
Doc Ock.
Here on the right, you're seeing stuff from WandaVision. And then over above, you're God forbid, but I've got this god awful feeling. You see Hugh Jackman scene from Logan. No. Like I can see them doing something like that in Spider-Man, but I don't think it's going to be as much multiverse traveling and like actual
no, I agree with
interaction
you for Spider-Man at least.
Yeah,
I think they'll be traveling in Doctor Strange. I think that's where we'll see non-Spider-Man characters from different universes coming in.
Possibly, yeah. Actually coming to stay or joining up.
And what's interesting about maybe bringing in the mutants is that this is outside the show knowledge, but it was a rumor. It's still kind of a rumor. It was rumored that Evan Peters, who plays Quicksilver in the Marvel, in Marvel Fox's Marvel. It's not even Marvel Legends. Fuck that. And the Days of Future Past trilogy, or whatever you want to call the young kid trilogy. And his I didn't know this is how it works. This is fascinating. The Spanish voice actor who always does his dubs. I didn't know actors had specific people that work with the same actor all the time.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, he's in this movie, and he is in this movie as Quicksilver. I mean, not as someone else. So it's like they could be bringing in that Quicksilver. She tries to rescue Pedro. She gets the mutant version. Hell, there's rumors Magneto could be in it. Did you buy Magneto?
Chance cross-reference and see if that voice actor also did the MCU version of Quicksilver by chance?
No, he said. I think he just said he does. Whatever. Evan Peters. He's Evan Peters stunt double. He's not like the Pietro stunt double. But I mean, it's possible. The other main theory I have, and I don't know how it will tie in, and it also kind of came up in Age of Ultron, where Ultron's like, "Why are you guys so special or whatever?" Or why do you hate Stark? And he's like, I have a picture in my pocket. And so his parents, but we never see it, which isn't intentional for this, but it makes this work. I think their parents are definitely the ones in the commercial.
Yeah, I heard that theory. I like that theory because it also leads into the whole like I said, from living in Europe, in Central Europe, in the 80s and 90s. This is her past.
Yeah.
And her that's what she's reliving. I don't think time itself is a factor in anything other than her timeline, as far as her experience is in her past, her experiences in her present, and where she'll be in her future. I don't think time plays any, I don't think there's going to be any time difference for her outside of the show. Like, I think it's after Endgame. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
No time travel, just time for her.
No,
her
I
past,
completely
her
agree.
Yeah.
And then the other part with that is, okay, so she was created by Hydra, but Hydra disappeared by the end of Age of Ultron, right? We haven't seen Hydra in forever, or like specifically. They've moved on to like other threats, including Thanos, or fighting each other in Civil War, or like Thor Ragnarok. I think we got 2 Hydra commercials in a row, because I think Hydra's coming back in a big enough way that we'll be seeing them popping up in movies again even if they're not Mephisto themselves or even working with it. Secret Empire. I think we will see a few movies where Hydra is at least aiding a villain, because we also have not seen the guy from Ant-Man again, who was the one who worked for Hydra, who was trying to purchase the yellow jacket suit and Hank Tech. No, really, he just wanted the Pym particles. Yeah. So he's a Hydra agent who's been captured, but is definitely still alive in the universe. So it'd be interesting if think about it. Maybe the perfect place to have Hydra come back is Armor Wars, or maybe they're funding like someone like Justin Hammer. And it doesn't feel like they fit into this storyline of magic and stuff, but they could be. Maybe they'll come back in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's probably the most likely place to come back.
Possibly.
I do think we're going to have more Hydra, because in the comics they always leave and then they're back and then they leave and then they're back. And I really feel like we won't see AIM or anyone again, because they really just kind of blew it with those organizations. Like we used up AIM in a movie, and it's not like the AIM from the comics at all. Whereas the opposite side, I definitely feel like we could see. I forgot the other. Oh, we have seen stuff like Rox Corp or whatever.
Roxxon.
Roxxon, both in the barely collected Netflix stuff, and they have shops in the Loki trailer. It's like,
yes.
So we're seeing that corporation come back too, though they really haven't done anything outside of Netflix shows. But yeah, anyone else? I hope other people have stuff. I think I covered everything that I noticed.
One question that I have is this. I tend to lean not so much towards the speculation on what we think is going to happen. I'm thinking about what we did see happen. And one thing I can't help but notice is that Vision spends a considerable amount of time in this show, all of the episodes thus far, away from Wanda. And if we're so convinced, if we're sure that this takes place after WandaVision or after Infinity War, then Vision's dead. Yes. And we assume that Wanda is manifesting everything. She's manifesting the store, her things that her body's going through. We're seeing physical manifestations and so on. And you might think, well, she's manifesting Vision because she loves Vision. How is it then that Vision is away from her so much?
I thought that too. Like he's finding his own clues.
So does the world exist outside of what Wanda sees now? And we know the answer to that now, because we see the physical sign for Westview when Geraldine is expelled. But how is it that somebody who is dead is there when
or even the last episode, they split up. He goes to the neighborhood watch and she goes to the ladies.
They two things. First, there's a deleted in-game scene where Wanda actually went to Fury's vault and steals Vision's body. And they were even going to do the White Vision where he wakes up as the White Vision. And then that was going to go into WandaVision. So there was even a time where it sounds like WandaVision was potentially planned to be next. When you listen to that interview with Paul Bettany, talking about that deleted scene.
So this is kind of like a Gandalf the White situation.
Sort of.
He does that in the comics.
In the comics,
he switches to white for a while.
Yeah, in the comics, he comes to when White Vision shows up, he's emotionless, which really fucks with Wanda in the comics.
And if you're missing the stone, you're missing part of your personality.
Right.
Which at has the stone in this world, so it's definitely some kind of creation because the stone is destroyed in this timeline.
Right. It's a combination. What I'm saying is she got his physical body, even though that scene's deleted, which means it's not technically canon. I think it'll still end up being canonized either by
did this
saying
to the body.
Either by saying that yes, she did steal it herself, or that somebody got it to her. I believe and that's why I think Vision doesn't question things the way she does, is because he's a combination of the real Vision based on what's left inside of him, but also what she wants that she put in him to replace the missing Mind Stone. And that's what causes him to be aware to a degree, but not as aware as she is. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I can buy that. I mean, as long as the physical body is present to interact with the other humans, which we know to be a fact. You know, I'm okay with, hey, we just re-downloaded, the original version of Jarvis and kind of rebooted him. But, he's got, that explains some of the memory loss from the beginning, and they don't know how they got here. So, or at least Vision doesn't.
How disappointing is it going to be if Vision dies at the end of this because the illusion is shattered and he's not actually fixed and he's like dropped to the ground dead again? I'll be so happy.
I like Paul Bettany and I like the Vision character, but really it all after this, what other story could you use Vision in?
Just put him in I guess you're right. Yeah, I would throw him in the Avengers, but
I mean,
you have two overpowered beings, which we kind of discussed last time, because you have the Captain Marvel problem of she's like Superman, and when she shows up, she just shows up in Endgame and saves everyone's ass for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like watching Justice League where you're like, every time Superman's in action, they win easily. It's just they distract him from the battle.
Yeah, not just her either, but everyone wanted to complain about her flying through the Accuser bomber ships. And I'm like, fucking dudes, you guys just watched Thor slam through a bunch of ships in Infinity War last year. What the fuck are you bitching about? And we know Vision can phase and change his density, who has also punched through vehicles and walls and all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of power. And honestly, no one's more powerful in my mind than Wanda once her chaos magic is unlocked, which is what they're trying to do here. My only biggest question is, why in the MCU do they want the chaos magic unleashed? I can't figure it out yet.
But it is interesting. Faggy said she's the strongest. He used to say Captain Marvel was, but there's that one scene in Endgame where she is going to take Thanos by her own. And that's when they're like, launch everything, even kill our own people. Which also reminds me of Far From Home, where he's like shoot everything.
Yeah.
But sir, you might get caught in the
she would have killed him,
crossfire.
but she was taking her time to make sure he suffered as much as she has. And that's another thing that's again real similar to all those comic book stories that I've brought up, is the suffering and torment of Wanda Maximoff.
She has been,
and
since
what
the
it results
first movie. Lost her brother. One other thing about the hexagon, I think it's one of my last notes. Hexagons are also the shape of honeycombs, and a queen bee controls everyone who's living inside the colony. Right. So Wanda's basically the queen bee in many ways, unless it's someone else.
Unless it's the beekeeper that we saw in the last episode.
That could also just be a clue towards it.
Yeah.
I still think he's just a sword agent. Oh, it's something I think we learned in this episode too, is that I don't think Geraldine, I don't think her mind was ever wiped. I think she's just been trying to blend in like a shield, like a sword spy.
I think what happens is when people get in, they have when outsiders, like when it was first locked down, either Wanda herself or Wanda with help creates the lockdown, the new memories, the new status quo. As outsiders come in, I think she's got a spell. The spell that's around it tries to integrate. If it can't keep someone out, it'll try to integrate. And that I think what's around her necklace, Monica's necklace, and it might be something similar to Agatha's brooch, I think are maybe totems or talismans or something to help repel Wanda's magic, maybe swords isn't as powerful. Maybe Wong didn't cast the spell instead of Strange or something. I don't know. But I think
Wong would be cool at the end of the series.
I think it was basically when Monica first gets there, it's the world is pushing on her brain, but her brain is pushing back out. And I think that necklace might have some defense to magic, the same as Agatha does.
And they also, someone noted, and I like it, that people's, even like their brain kind of manifests like different things, kind of like in the way of the stork, just because she's talking about her boss, Mr. Haddock, and she's wearing pants have haddocks on them. And then the stork, remember, goes over to grab the fish on the pants, which is a haddock. Right. So it's like, it's kind of like, and then maybe when she's thinking more about sword, that kind of appears around her neck, which she's like, probably shouldn't have this out if Wanda's recognized it before.
Yeah, I wonder if upon a rewatch, maybe that necklace was that there the entire time.
I think it was in that scene, actually.
And I actually kind of find myself wanting to go watch and see if the necklace very subtly changes shape, because I swear it was an upside down cross, like no doubt about it the first time, and then it's more of a sword the second time. I'm totally making that up, but who knows? Yeah,
I can't wait until next Monday. This is what I want. Our next Monday, so you guys can listen to us talk here on Marvel Multiverse Mondays. But I can't wait till next week's episode to watch, because I hope we spend some time outside.
Yeah,
it's time. We need to spend at least 10 minutes outside.
Well, I think next episode will be our second to last one that even has a TV show in it, if not the last one. Next week is going to be 80s/90s Halloween episode. Pretty sure it'll be the next one with that aesthetic. And then I think they have one more after that, which is more of a modern day sitcom, like Modern Family,
right?
Where she's talking to the camera even and stuff. And then after that, they've covered every era. They might as well jump outside of shows and have some kind of battle with the bubble coming down, or maybe the Shield's like, fuck, the Sword's like, fuck this. We'll try to send in an Avenger. Like, send in the Doctor. Yeah.
Call the Doctor.
Why are we just humans dealing with it when we can call super beings who know magic?
David Tennant shows up. You call the Doctor?
God, he's being
wrong universe. Get back in your fucking blue box and go. Yeah. How fucking crazy will it be to see the fucking Squadron Supreme in the MCU? The holy shit! If that turns out to be happening, that'll be funny. Because then Marvel can really do DC better than DC.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited for next week too. Like, it's getting, like I said, the beginning. This episode was a kind of a step down from the last one until it got into like the Marvel-y bits where you're like, oh, this is fucking scary. Because in that scene, Monica realizes it too. She's like, I could be crushed at any time. Like, Wanda, like, it's all cool, right?
I will say, I'm not going to go into it, but I disagree that Agatha and Herb were worried about Monica's well-being. I think Agatha's sole concern is Wanda's well-being. Herb may have been,
or Wanda even figuring out, which is part
of Wanda figuring out.
Yeah, I agree.
I believe both of them look at Monica as a threat to status quo. Whether Herb, I don't know why I keep wanting to call him Herb, but whether Herb wants to be part of the status quo or not remains to be seen. But Agatha definitely wants the status quo, and Monica threatens that. So,
and then she does her little ding ding on the bike and rolls away like the Wicked Witch the last time we see her in this episode.
Yep.
But she has rabbits instead of dogs. And speaking of which, just looking back at past weeks, rabbits were in the last episode. Rabbits symbolize in many ways multiplying. So again, like having kids.
Be fruitful and multiply.
Yep.
All for the children.
Or as I was watching,
unlock the hex magic, the chaos magic.
It was on it actually is an Age of Ultron. It doesn't tie into this. It's just one of my favorite funny lines where someone's like, they're multiplying like Catholic rabbits. Oh, Nick Fury says that when they're at Hawkeye's place. It's like Ultron's multiplying like a Catholic rabbit.
I don't remember that. Great. That's great.
But
it's hilarious.
I grew up Catholic, and my parents have like 6 to 7 siblings on both sides, because that's back when they were like, their parents were like, we don't wear contraception, and you only have sex to have kids, is old Catholicism. So not for pleasure, but
sounds fun.
Yeah, those are the days. Anyway, you got anything else, Coots?
I got nothing else. I'm excited for next week. I liked this episode more than the previous two, and so I'm excited to keep going in that direction and sort of solidify the ground that we're standing on. I think that the mystery of it all is fun to speculate on, but I'm excited to pour some concrete.
Yeah, that's awesome. Why I think we need some time outside, just a little bit, not a whole episode, and it doesn't even have to be consecutive. Like I said, I think we needed about 8 to 10 minutes outside next episode, and it doesn't have to be consecutive. We just need some concrete, like Coots said.
I think we will get an episode without Wanda or Vision eventually that is just what Sword's been up to. But I think that'll come maybe after the next 2 episodes I talk about, after we finish the TV shows, break away, see what was going on, and then whatever hell is going on inside the bubble once the TV shows run out. So once the genres the decades run out, unless they do like a Futurama animated show where it's like, this is a TV show from the 2080s, which is the number on their house, even in this episode. And they always make it very clear. So I'm still wondering about that. Well, 2800 is their address. But all right. And with that, I guess we'll wrap it up. Coots, where can the people find you, communicate with you?
Find me on twitter.com @CootsBrandon.
Awesome. And you've been on some podcasts. Is this your first podcast since the last time you did one? Or did you fit in?
Yes, that's right. I've not been invited back anywhere else due to my temper issues and constant cursing and smoking crack while on the podcast. No,
at least it's allowed on this podcast. Kyle, where are you at?
I was sick all week last week, guys. I'm sorry that I missed out on stuff, but I'm coming back. You guys know to find me on the LRMornings every Monday through Friday, the Cantina, lots of other podcasts, and at that Kyle Malone on Twitter.
Excellent. And I am at Geeky Nick Dahl on Twitter. I do Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, the show I created with Jonesy, where March is going to be our 2-year anniversary because we started with Captain Marvel. What a way to, with a bang. Because, Jonesy, like most people, and not me, is like, that's kind of a shitty movie / character. But, and then, of course, I'm here for Marvel Multiverse Mondays every week as we break down every Marvel show all year long. And then sometimes I appear with Kyle on LRMornings. It just depends what he needs. Yeah, with that, Excelsior.
What was it?
Enough said.
Enough said. There it is.
Bye. I don't have a sign off yet.